Captain Lomar loved the pirate life. Lomar was a trell. His skin was green, his head was bald. His forehead was graced with magnificent bone ridges. Lomar was a handsome specimen of the best-looking species in the galaxy. If anyone said different, he would shoot them in the face. Times were hard for Trell these days. 5 years ago, the Trell nation had been the jewel of the Confederation of Worlds. The other species might not admit to being worthless heretics doomed to the free hells, but deep down they knew that the Trell were the true chosen of the galaxy. It was only natural they should have so much power and influence. The nation of Trell had been the dominant force in the galaxy. That was before the Zill, before the Darkening. The Zill were a nation of sapient machines. They'd always been hostile to organics, but no one could have guessed they'd attack everyone, everywhere, all at once. No one had imagined anyone having enough ships to pull such a stunt. The nation of Trell had fought bravely. If it had just been the Zill, Lomar was sure they would have been victorious. But the Zill were just the start of the problem. A few hours into the battle, a new threat appeared. Planet-sized spheres of modular technology. They were pure nanotech, and they destroyed Trell and Zill alike. No one in Trell space had survived. A strange energy pulse had come a few hours later. It had killed the Zill and the spheres. It had also disabled every ship and station in known space. Lomar didn't know where the pulse had come from, but rumor had it that it was the work of a human, one of the madmen of the stars. The pulse had come too late to save the nation of Trell. Their homeworld was gone. Where once had been a proud nation of 300 billion souls, there was now only ashes and debris. Trell were refugees now. They numbered a mere 40 million, those lucky few who were out of Trell space on that fateful day. While times were hard for most Trell, they were going swimmingly for Captain Lomar. The Trell had been hit the hardest, probably because the Zill knew they were the biggest threat. And that didn't mean the heretics had come out unscathed. The Confed had lost so many people and ships that they couldn't patrol their territory anymore. Not enough to stop someone like Captain Lomar, at least. It was a pirate's paradise out here. "Target is in range, sir," Lieutenant Tava reported. Tava was a fellow Trell. All of Lomar's crew were. Captain Lomar was a righteous man, and he wasn't about to trust his ship to any godless heathens. "Thank you, Lieutenant," Lomar said with a smile. Tava was a pretty little thing. Lomar had seriously considered making her his third wife. Sadly, it was not to be. Tava was too good of an officer. Lomar wasn't willing to waste such a talent, sitting at home raising his kids. Captain Lomar pulled up a sensor screen. The target was a luxury passenger transport. A kilometer-long cylinder lined with viewports for the tourists to look out of. The hull was lined with fancy murals and filigree. The ship was named the Journey of Wonder. The Journey had weak shields and no weapons to speak of. What it did have was an escort. The big one. 3 Tonga frigates and 8 Vinga fighter ships. Way too much firepower for most pirates to deal with. Unfortunately for them, they weren't up against most pirates. They were up against Captain Lomar. Lomar's ship, the Revenge of the Pure, was not a Confederation vessel. It was a Zill battlecruiser, a Quig. The Zill had been light years more advanced than the rest of the verse. A single Quig could wipe out an entire battle fleet by itself. The pulse that killed the Zill hadn't destroyed their ships, it had destroyed their computers. Since the Zill basically were computers, that left millions and millions of unstoppable warships just waiting to be picked up and renovated. There were complications, of course. The Confed military had claimed all the big Zill ships for themselves, and the Quigs especially. Anyone outside the military caught flying one would be hunted down. After a large number of grisly examples had been made, most pirates wouldn't risk flying a Quig in Confed space. Captain Lomar wasn't most pirates. He'd found a workaround. It was simple, really. Lomar had a contact in the military. That contact had entered Lomar's ship into the database. Anyone who checked his IFF would see an active-duty military vessel that had been assigned to help the local militia in their patrols. Captain Lomar opened his comms and spoke to his target. "Attention, Journey of Wonder. This is Captain Lomar of the Confederation Military. We are scanning your ship for contraband. Please stand by." "This is Captain Jinwa of the Journey of Wonder," came the immediate reply. "We are standing by. Thank you for your service." Captain Jinwa sounded like a Fliven. Nasty things. Too much hair. The man didn't sound particularly concerned. Why should he be? Getting scanned for contraband was a routine part of void travel. He had nothing to worry about as long as he kept his nose clean. "Initiate scan," Loma ordered. Tava gave a sharp nod and got to work. A few seconds later, she reported, "Scan complete. 982 people on board. Flivian crew. Passengers are a mix of Flivens and Brillens, with a few dozen Flurg and 18 Trelg." Lomar didn't bother asking about cargo. He was here for slaves. Slaves fetched a ridiculous price these days. The people on that transport would be worth more than the ship itself. The pulse that killed the Zil had also shorted out every slave implant in the galaxy. Killing the implants had killed the slaves they were attached to. Then the damned Krogs had taken over the Confed. The thrice-cursed bastards had come out the Zil attack unscathed. Damned if Lomar knew how. The Krog were idiots. They couldn't even talk right. That didn't change the fact that they'd been the only ones with a functioning military. They'd taken over and ruined everything that made the Confed great. Their worst offense was outlawing slavery. Taking slaves was the whole reason Lomar had become a pirate. He had spent 30 glorious years putting heathens where they belonged, under his boot. The Krog had outlawed slavery, but they didn't have the people or the infrastructure to put a real stop to it. They just turned it into a black market. A black market that was making Lomar very rich. "Any humans or Pixans?" the captain asked. He was sure Tava would have mentioned it if there were, but it was best to make sure. "No, sir," Tava replied. "Excellent." Captain Lomar smiled. The first rule of piracy: know your prize. Many a pirate had been blasted out of the sky for picking the wrong target. In Lomar's case, he had to make absolutely sure he didn't take any Pixans. The little whores had protection now. Pixans had been the bottom rung of the Confed for centuries, but now they had their own country. More importantly, they had an army of robots with a chip on their shoulder. The peacekeeper units were as terrifying as the Zil had been, and they were a lot more vindictive. Any fool who messed with a Pixan would be hunted down. The peacekeepers would do things to them that would make a Vril puke. Lomar had seen it more than once. No pirate with half a brain would touch a ship with a Pixan on board. Humans came with a lot less risk of being hunted down later. Some pirates might be stupid enough to try their luck against one. Not Lomar, though. He knew better. He'd worked with humans. He'd seen what they could do. "Any militia or military vessels close by?" the captain inquired. "Just us, sir," said Tava. She smirked. "All right, then," Lomar grinned. "Let's bag us some heathens." He flipped his comm back on and said, "Attention, Journey of Wonder, contraband has been detected. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded." "What?" Captain Jinwa's shock made Lomar grin wider. "We don't got no contraband." "Lower your shields or you will be fired upon," Lomar said sternly. "But we don't got no contraband," Jinwa protested. "I just ran a scan myself. We're clean." "Preve," Captain Lomar addressed his tactical officer. "Lock weapons." "Yes, sir," Preve acknowledged. Lieutenant Preve wasn't as handsome as Lomar, but he was solidly built. He was also a consummate professional. Maybe too professional. Lomar had been working with him for a year, and he barely knew anything about the man. He was a damn fine tactical officer, though. "Weapons lock? Oh, Glurk," Jinwa swore. "You ain't real military. I heard there was a pirate with a military ship, faking arrests so he could take slaves. It's you, ain't it?" "Lower your shields," Lomar growled. "This is your last warning." "No way," the Fliven denied. "No void damn way. You ain't taking my people, scrap sucker." "The Journey is charging its jump drive," Tava warned Lomar. "The escorts, too." Jump drives. They used to be rare and expensive, but they were getting a lot more common. A jump drive would let a ship teleport to any jump gate they had nav data for. Lomar had 30 seconds, then his prize would disappear. "Preve," Lomar ordered. "Stop those ships." Yes, sir. The tactical officer had already programmed a firing solution. He pressed a single button on his console. The Revenge of the Pure vibrated as its cannons got to work. Plasma lances, ion bolts, and something that looked like red lightning leapt from the Quig. 8 seconds later, the Journey and all of his escorts were down. Preve had done it right. He damaged their power systems just enough to take away their shields and ability to move, but not so much that Lomar couldn't fix them in an hour or two. Good work, Preve. Lomar congratulated him. I couldn't have done it better myself. Third rule of piracy: keep your crew happy. Thank you, sir. The lieutenant didn't smile, but he seemed to appreciate the compliment. We'll dock with the Journey first, the captain instructed. Preve, make sure the drones are ready. Tava, take us in. It only took a few minutes to close in on the Journey of Wonder. Lieutenant Tava maneuvered the Revenge of the Pure alongside it and matched its speed. A skybridge extended from the Revenge and forced a connection. Combat drones flooded into the Journey. The drones swept through the passenger ship in minutes, blasting every soul on board with stun shots. 110 stout trell followed the drones. They would gather up the new slaves and stuff them in cryopods. Captain Lomar started to reach for the comms, then thought better of it. His people knew what to do. Micromanaging was for chumps and the insecure. Instead, he pulled up his console sensor feeds and watched his crew start carrying unconscious heathens into his cargo bay. It was a sight Lomar never got tired of. Lomar had been watching his crew work for about 5 minutes when Tava suddenly jerked upright. Captain? The edge in her voice snapped Lomar to attention. A ship has changed course. It's on our way to intercept us. Military? Asked the captain. No, sir. Tava frowned. I think it's a human ship. A human? A chill swept up Lomar's legs. He switched his console screen to show the newcomer. It was a sleek, triangular vessel, just over 80 meters long. It had wings for atmospheric flight. 14 cannons protruded from its front, along with a short, thin barrel that looked like some kind of railgun. It was on an intercept course, accelerating at 418 meters per second squared. Lomar's whole body froze. His legs clenched. His butt puckered, and his balls tried to crawl up into his stomach. He knew that ship. He'd seen it in his nightmares. It was the random encounter. It was Mad Lad Mims. Progenitor's balls! The captain breathed. No, it couldn't be. Mims was dead. Mims had been dead for years. Lomar pulled himself together. He zoomed the sensors in for a closer look. The ship was not the random encounter. It looked like the encounter, but the name Swashbuckler was painted on the side. Lomar's panic lessened, but not by much. It might not be the infamous Mims, but it was still a human. Captain Lomar activated his comms. Attention all hands, this is the captain. Drop what you're doing and get back to the ship. Back to the ship? The reply came from Beckley, Lomar's chief engineer. I'm almost done here, Captain. Give me 10 more minutes and the reactor will be up. We can take the Journey with us. Forget the Journey, Beckley, the captain snapped. Get your thrice cursed ass over here now. If you're not aboard in 3 minutes, we're leaving without you. Beckley took a few seconds to reply, but when he did, he said, Yes, sir. We're on our way. You better be, Lomar warned. He switched off the comms. Sir? Tava was staring at the captain with concern. What's happening? We're leaving is what, Lomar told her. The sooner the better. We'll lose our prize, Lieutenant Preve pointed out. We'll lose a lot more than that if we stay, Lomar countered. The fifth rule of piracy. Know when to run. I don't understand, sir, said Tava. It's just one ship. 3 hells, it's only a fighter. Captain Lomar regarded the woman for a moment. You ever seen a human fight, Lieutenant? Tava shook her head. No, Captain. I have, Lomar told her. At Milvari. Milvari? Tava's eyes lit up. You were in the Battle of Milvari? I was. Lomar had to resist the urge to preen at the woman's admiration. Back in the glory days when the Freedom Republic was building up to be its own country. I didn't know that, said Preve. He was as stone-faced as ever, but Lomar detected a hint of admiration. It was 3 hells of a plan, Lomar continued. We took an entire shipyard. A Confed military fleet was docked inside, waiting for a refit. The militia tried to stop us, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. If that thrice-cursed Mims hadn't shown up... Mims? Tava's eyes got even wider. You fought Mad Lad Mims? I didn't fight him, Lomar told her. You can tell because I'm still alive. Lomar shook his head. The militia hired the human to stop us. The commandant sent a whole fleet after him. 40 ships, including beam frigates and a battlecruiser. Mims took his one little ship, a ship just like that. He pointed at his screen, and he killed them all. Then he captured the mover we were using to haul the station out. He held up a finger. One human, just one, and we couldn't stop him. But we're in a quig, said Preve, and we're registered as a military craft. You'd have to be stupid or crazy to come after us. That's a human, Lomar reminded him. Stupid and crazy is what they do. He grimaced. Now, shut up a minute. I'm gonna see if I can't talk our way out of this. Lomar held the human ship. Swashbuckler, this is Captain Lomar of the Revenge of the Pure. I see you on approach. State your business. Captain Lomar, this is Captain Baron of the Swashbuckler. The voice was male, brisk and businesslike. You have been caught in an act of piracy. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. An act of piracy? Lomar scoffed. Are you out of your mind, human? We're a military vessel. You are not, said the human. The Confed military knows there's an impersonator out here taking ships. They put a 500 million credit bounty on it. A bounty? So the human was a privateer. Not good. Lomar kept his voice stern. Maybe there is, but we're not who you're looking for. Check the database, heretic. We're a military vessel performing our assigned duties. If you try to interfere, we'll blast you out of the sky. As he spoke, Lomar ran an internal scan of his ship. Most of his crew had made it back on board, but another 20 pirates were still sprinting through the journey of wonder. One more minute, then he could go. I don't think you will. Captain Baron sounded sure of himself. Idiot human, Lomar snarled. If you attack a Confederation military craft, your dumbass will be flagged as an insurgent. Every military, militia, and privateer vessel in the Confed will turn hostile, and your ship will be impounded the moment you're stupid enough to dock on a station. Probably, Baron admitted, but I can clear that up once I've got your flight logs. You had a good run, Captain Lomar. It was a slick operation. There's just one problem. I talked to the Fliven militia. They've never heard of you. The Revenge never checked in with militia command. Why should we? Lomar bluffed. If the militia was doing its job, we wouldn't even be here. There are 4 Confed military ships working with the militia in Fliven space, the human explained. Every one of them is in constant contact with militia command. Everyone but you. Damn. It was a discrepancy Lomar couldn't avoid. His fake orders wouldn't hold up against real scrutiny. Talking to the militia would have blown his cover. Captain Lomar didn't bother to reply. He switched off the comms. The last pirate made it back aboard the Revenge. Tava, the captain ordered. Detach us from the journey. Jump us out of here the second we're clear. Lomar eyed the human ship. It was coming in fast. Too fast. Preve, the captain ordered. Blast that human out of the sky. Yes, sir, Preve acknowledged. The Revenge shuddered and vibrated as its cannons opened up. Preve made sure all guns were firing before he pointed out. The Swashbuckler's not in optimal weapons range, Captain. It'll be easy to dodge our fire. Keep shooting, Lomar ordered. We only need a minute. The Revenge is disconnected, sir, Tava reported. Charging jump drive. The Revenge of the Pure hummed. The thrumming of the jump drive rose above the thrums and shudders of the cannons. Lomar watched the enemy ship on his screen. The Swashbuckler strafed and ducked, dodging blasts that were swatted out of the sky. The ship angled away from the Revenge, not daring to get closer. Good. Just 10 more seconds and the jump drive would activate. Lomar would be 12 sectors away and the human would have no way to trace where he went. 10 seconds and he was home free. The bridge lights went out. The humming of the jump drive stopped. What the free hells? Lomar demanded. A moment later, the lights came back on. The thrumming of the jump drive didn't. The shuddering of cannons didn't restart either. Tava, What happened? We've been hit, sir, Tava reported. We have multiple hull breaches. Hit with what? Preeve demanded. Our shields were up. Not anymore, they're not, Tava told him. Our shield generators have been destroyed. All 3 reactors are damaged. Reserve power is online, but... She looked up at Captain Lomar. Her eyes were full of fear. It's not enough to restart the jump drive. Damn it. Captain Lomar didn't even know what the human had hit him with. Tava, evasive maneuvers. Reserve power wasn't enough for the jump drive, but his engine should still work. Preeve, tell me we've still got weapons. Not exactly, sir. A pinch of frustration tightened the Trell's stony visage. Zil weapons take a lot of juice. Reserve power won't cut it. His brows furrowed. We've still got missiles, though. Missiles? Lomar gave a sharp nod. Good. Fire missiles. Which ones, sir? Asked the tactical officer. All of them! The captain ordered. The Revenge had a full complement of Zil missiles when he found it. Like the rest of the ship's weapons, they were vastly superior to anything the conflict could make. Lomar had used them sparingly. He had 687 of them left. It took a full minute to fire them all. Some broke into swarms, some zigzagged in evasive maneuvers, some were slower than the rest but packed enough punch to crack a small moon. All of them streaked towards the human ship. There's no way he survives all that, Preeve predicted. Captain Lomar said nothing. He just watched. The swashbuckler had accelerated away the moment the first missile was launched. The human ship couldn't hope to outrun or outmaneuver the Zil missiles. Lomar half hoped this would be enough to kill it, but deep down he knew better. Lines of light lanced out of the human ship. Beam weapons. 2 of them. The beams were weak, too weak to even tickle most ships. That didn't stop them from detonating every missile they touched. Free hells! Lomar muttered. It's a missile defense system. The beams flicked from one missile to another, detonating the lot of them in less time than it had taken to launch the damn things. Lomar got on the internal comms and said, Beckley, I need full power in 30 seconds or we're all dead. That's not how ship repair works, Captain, Beckley chided. There's a thrice damned hole in each of the reactors. I can get one up and running in an hour, maybe. Don't bother, Lomar told him. We won't last that long. Lomar switched to a general broadcast. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare to repel boarders. The swashbuckler dived, heading straight for the Revenge. Tava kept up evasives as best she could, but that didn't stop the human from blasting the Quig. The human didn't use whatever strange weapon had pierced the hull the first time. He just opened up with his regular cannons and turned the Quig's engines into scrap metal. Then he moved in to force a connection to one of Lomar's airlocks. Lomar was ready. The ship's combat drones were active, along with every turret and internal defense he could muster. 40 heavily armed pirates filled each of the 2 corridors that led to the airlock the human had chosen. Preeve and a strike force waited nearby, all decked out in power armor. The last 10 pirates waited on the bridge, with Tava and Captain Lomar. Do you really think he's that dangerous, sir? Tava asked. I know he's a human, but he's still just one man. There was a battlecruiser, a Milvari, Lomar remarked. Had a crew of 187. Mad lad Mims boarded that ship alone and killed every thrice-cursed one of them. Oh. Tava's grip tightened on her blaster. Then her gaze snapped to her sensor console. Sir? The humans' life signs just disappeared. Of course they did, Lomar snorted. The humans have stealth technology. Stealth, sir? Tava swallowed. They can turn invisible? Not invisible, Lomar explained, but they can hide from sensors. Our drones and turrets will be useless now. The wait was tense, but not long. Maybe 2 minutes later, internal sensors picked up gunfire in one of the corridors. The first group of pirates had been engaged. The second group ran to join the fray. Preeve and his strike team were right behind them. He's engaged! Captain Lomar pulled out his blaster rifle. Everyone follow me! Go, go, go! Captain Lomar raced through the Revenge of the Pure. He pounded down the corridors as fast as he could. An armed human was basically unstoppable. His men would all die. That didn't mean Lomar couldn't win. The human had one weakness. He was alone. No matter how capable the man was, he couldn't be in 2 places at once. Let the bastard kill his men. Let him take Lomar's ship. In return, Lomar would take his. Captain Lomar could hear screams and blaster fire as he ran. He could see Tava and his 10 chosen pirates running behind him, eyes wild with fear. Lomar didn't slow down as the airlock came into view. It was open. Combat drones lay on the ground all around it. The drones looked dead. Lomar and his remaining crew entered the airlock. Lomar had one of his men closer behind them. The rest followed the captain in a dead sprint for the bridge. Lomar made a decision as he ran. He was done being a pirate. It was time for Lomar to settle down, spend some time with his wives and kids, enjoy all the money he'd made. He'd take Tava with him, settle the whole bunch of them on some pleasure station somewhere, live the rest of his life in style and pop out as many kids as he could. There weren't enough Trell in the verse anymore. He'd do his part to repopulate. Lomar's daydream screeched to a halt as he rounded the last corner leading to the swashbuckler's bridge. There was a figure waiting for him. Short, female, clad head to toe in form-fitting black armor. Lomar couldn't see her face through her mirrored visor, but he didn't need to. She was a human. She had to be. "Shit! It's an ambush!" Lomar shouted. He opened fire with his blaster rifle, trying to backpedal past his men. The blaster bolt struck true. They didn't do a damn thing. "There are 2 of them!" Those were the last words Captain Lomar ever spoke.